And now it's Boomer Life. Lifestyle ideas designed to make your life more engaging, meaningful, and complete. Celebrating the baby boomer generation. This is Boomer Life.
Welcome to Boomer Life on AM 650. My name is Simone Graywall. On Boomer Life today, we're talking about the ins and outs of addiction. If you or someone you know is struggling with addiction or dependency issues, we have in studio with us today someone who can help. Joining us is Jason Spies, the Executive Director and Interventionist at LDR Holistic Wellness Center. Welcome back, Jason.
Thank you.
Now, Jason, could you share with our audience just how you came to know so much about the intervention process?
Yeah, thanks, Simone. The material that I'm going to explore today is built on years of personal and professional experience, really viewing the addiction process from many different lenses, if you will. I've had the tremendous good fortune of being mentored by some tremendous people that have been working in the industry, alongside with families that have needed our services, and it's been really a privilege to work with families struggling and suffering from the impacts of addiction. And of course, for many of years, I've been offering drug and alcohol rehabilitation programs to individuals personally struggling with their own addiction issues.
Now, the topic we're focusing in on today, a lot of people may not know exactly what an intervention is. So can you tell us what the definition of that is?
Sure. Well, I kind of grabbed the dictionary version of it, and so basically it's to take action to improve on a situation or the action of process in terms of intervening. But what an intervention means to LDR Holistic Addiction Wellness Center is a deliberate process where change is introduced into the individual's thoughts, feelings, and essentially behaviors. The overall objective of our intervention is to confront the person in a non-threatening way and really in a respectful, compassionate way, to allow themselves to see their self-destructive behaviors and how it's affected themselves, the family, and sometimes even the employer or their community.
Because it really does affect everybody around you when you're struggling with some kind of dependency.
Absolutely, and that's, the other side of an intervention is really a divorce. It's where the family creates a new standard of living and makes a commitment on focusing on really the solution and stops getting distracted by really the circus show, the fear, the shame, the guilt, and all of those others impacts that maybe the addict doesn't really realize that they're putting on, as you said, to the other community members or family members.
And it really shouldn't be seen as a word that's scary. It's something that's a helpful word, because sometimes that word of intervention, if you have somebody in your family that you feel needs one, or you're somebody who's struggling who thinks you need one as well, it doesn't have to be a scary thing.
You know what? It's actually one of those amazing processes where families constantly give me feedback that at the end of it, not only have they come to some really profound new awarenesses, but they have recognized that the secrets and the things that they've been holding on to have really been a disservice to their health, their life, and impacted them in ways that they really didn't realize. So, an intervention is really an extremely first step for anyone to help the addicted person, as well as to receive guidance and support and really essentially empowerment.
Now, many people have watched the TV series called Intervention. I've seen it myself. What are some of your thoughts on that program?
I've got some interesting viewpoints and thoughts around that. Most families can identify with, the Intervention show. It was originally an HBO series in the United States, and it became very famous very quickly. I think it was first released around 2005. It might be earlier. Don't quote me on that. What's really interesting is that many people have been exposed to this TV series. However, they have to be reminded that this is a really condensed, made-for-TV version, and so I want to remind people that the series is really looking at some of the worst cases, obviously, to showcase the impact of an intervention and addiction on a family.
Because we're really just watching an hour, whereas that whole process could be months of actually, going through it all from start to finish, from when the intervention begins.
Yeah, I've actually had the fortunate opportunity to work with the show and the producers, as well as many of the interventionists. And I believe that this the TV show has really provided people with a lot of insight. I mean, before then, the word intervention wasn't even really a word that anybody knew before that. And so it's great to see that a community and families now have something to identify with, that this service is out there. There is something that can help me, and maybe I need this. The other potential side of that, though, is that many families have been exposed to these series, and they almost have sometimes this a bit of a judgment, if you will, that this isn't what's going on in my home because what they're seeing is very extreme. And that's one of the things I want to be very cautious around, and I'm going to talk about that later in the show, around the two kind of sided coin. And I want to remind families that it's okay to start seeking these services, even if maybe your situation isn't as volatile or potentially as dangerous as what they're seeing on TV.
Exactly, because the person in your household or somebody that you know who might be dealing with, struggling with addiction or dependency issues, they might not be a case that you've seen on TV, but it's still something that is affecting the family. It is something that needs to be brought to the forefront and discussed. Now, how do families know if they are in need of an intervention?
It's a really good question, and again, I'm going to speak about two sides of the coin. The family who has very limited exposure to the specific actions of addiction, and on the other side of the coin, the family that has essentially an overwhelming amount of information and is very clear that they're dealing with somebody that is in, full-blown addiction. So on the first side of the coin, to those families, wondering if they're in need of addiction, I want to let them know that generally families, and actually in my case, this is probably the larger group, they usually have little or no real specific exposure. And what I mean by that is, I've seen Johnny or Paul or, whoever of concern stick a needle in their arm or do cocaine up their nose or drink or drive. But what we have here is what we call really it's almost like an iceberg. Generally, the family sees kind of the 10 to 20% of the iceberg that's merging on top of the water. And what I mean by that is the symptoms of addiction. This is where families can be really stuck because they don't really have enough information to make an informed decision or really take any specific course of action. And I do see a lot of this over the years in terms of my experience. Again, generally the job of a problematic drinker or a drug user is to hide or normalize their behaviors, and really in whatever stage of dependency they're in.
So it could be, doing it in the privacy of your home, going out to the car to do something. You're just trying to not let your family on or find out exactly what you're up to.
Well, and addiction, many people, and especially now, again, going back to the lenses of experience that I have in working with addicts, is that they talk a lot about these, feelings of shame, guilt, and fear. They've found a solution. And a lot of times they know that the solution isn't really the best solution, but it's working. And so when we found something that works, and we know that exposing it is potentially going to bring us some consequences, whether it's feedback or legal consequences, whatever it may be, we're going to try and hold that in as close to our, hold the cards as close to our chest as possible. So yeah, a lot of families really don't have this type of exposure because of the behind-the-scenes stuff that's going on.
If you're just joining us right now, this is Boomer Life on AM 650. My name is Simone Graywall, and today we are talking about the ins and outs of addiction. If you or someone you know is struggling with addiction or dependency issues, we have in studio with us Jason Spies, who is the Executive Director and Interventionist at LDR Holistic Wellness Center. The website is holisticdrugrehab.org. Now, Jason, you mentioned that families only get to see about 10 to 20% of the symptoms of an addiction lifestyle. What do you mean by the words symptoms of addiction?
Well, first off, it's really important to know that if you're on the side of this coin, the major group where they essentially haven't had any specific experience with that individual doing, addictive specific behaviors, that parachuting in a professional really helps the family start to come together and become clear on what angle to go or direction. Now, in terms of that 10 to 20% and what I mean by the symptoms of addiction lifestyle, we say that the symptoms of addiction because in many cases, families, and again, they have limited exposure. And so what we're talking about is really the behavioral. So, the isolation, anger, conflicts, changes in personal appearance, for example.
So those are kind of the key behavioral things to look out for if you're kind of thinking somebody might be dealing with something like this.
Yeah, those are some of the key. And again, this list is probably 1,000 deep, and that's where working with a professional and spending that time really going through these are the behaviors of concern, and this is what we're witnessing. What do you think can really start happening? And there's other areas too, including emotional, like for example, if this person's crying or unable to handle stress, you're starting to witness like a lack of coping, and this used to be a highly functional person, but now we're really starting to see a lot of blaming and depression, and another real big one is that real irritability and anger coming out, as well as psychological. Psychological can present itself in many different ways. You can see, a lot of depression, obsessive thinking, grandiose thinking. So you're starting to see somebody that you're going, I don't really recognize some of these behaviors or symptoms that I'm seeing.
There's just a sudden switch.
There's a sudden switch. It can be sudden or it can be over a long period of time. And actually the long period of time is one of the more dangerous ones because families, again, aren't really, and they're sitting there scratching their head going, I know something has changed. And I hear this all the time when they connect with me is, I know something's changed, but I can't put my finger on it. We've essentially striked everything else off on the list, and this is what we're left with. And so, again, one of the other big indicators in terms of the symptoms of addiction is the social. Who are they hanging out with? Where are they spending the majority of their time?
So does this mean a group of friends has changed? They're not kind of spending time with people they once were spending time with? Are they pushing away from the family?
Yeah. I've been doing this for many, many years, and I have never seen one model, if you will, that I could bring to the table to say, here is what it looks like, and we can put it in this box. But generally, yes, you're starting to see either social groups emerge that you've never seen before, or social circles, like for example, the sports team. I'm going to hang out at the bar with the guys. They might have that group. They might have the very serious using friends, and the family maybe is never exposed to them due to geographical, they're not around them, or that simply this person's very private and doesn't wish to involve their loved ones in their social groups.
And is it often, for some people that do live on their own or they're kind of more introverted, it's easier for someone like that to hide it? Whereas could it be the same if someone is married, they're in a family, but the wife or the partner doesn't necessarily know what they're up to? In your personal experience, an addict is obviously, it comes in any shape or form, but is it almost easier for someone to hide when it is just them on their own?
You want to know something, actually, believe it or not, I've had situations where the family are very close, and yet still the individual's been able to be secret enough around. Now, especially depending on what they're using. Like, for example, if they're using prescription drugs, this is something that can be very easily used without any real exposure and in secrecy. It's a second to go in the bathroom, they come out. Next thing you know, an hour later, the family's seeing some behavioral changes. They've been in the room the whole time. They're sitting there going, what's going on here? So, again, this is where working with a professional to kind of start going through a bit of a process and helping them identify, that's where we can take all this information and start really building a level of awareness of, yes, this might be an avenue that we need to go down, either mental health or addiction or, maybe other things that would contribute to that.
And there might be something in the form of them minimizing or rationalizing or justifying their behavior. So what are some examples of that?
Yeah, great question, actually. One of the factors that we see a lot with alcoholics and addicts is to be able to hold on to this solution. Again, I have found drugs and alcohol, and now it's helping me cope with life. I don't want to be exposed to negative consequences, so I have to start justifying or minimizing or rationalizing my behaviors. And so, really, an addict or an alcoholic's job is to say, well, everyone's, drinking on my sports team.
It's a social thing to do.
Yeah, I mean, the commercials are showing it.
Mm-hmm.
Why do they sell alcohol at every single corner? And why is there a bar at the other corner? And so, especially in our society, it's become so acceptable. One thing that's really emerged over the last 10, 20 years is marijuana. We hear that a lot with people coming into our services. Well, it's used as a medical aid now. It must be safe. Therefore, I'm using it to self-medicate. What's the problem?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I'm going and purchasing it on the places that I am, but I have a choice to do that, and I have a right to do that. So, yes, a lot of minimizing, a lot of justifying and rationalizing, and that's where the individual can move through those stages of dependency.
If you're with us, this is Boomer Life on AM 650. My name is Simone Graywell. We've been talking about the ins and out of addiction. If you or someone you know is struggling with addiction or dependency issues, Jason Spies is the Executive Director and Interventionist at LDR Holistic Wellness Center, online at holisticdrugrehab.org. And we'll be back. We've got a lot more to talk about on this topic, so stay with us on Boomer Life on AM 650.
It's all about the baby boomer lifestyle. Boomer Life on AM 650.